Hello, welcome back to our management and environmental engineering class. So this is chapter 11. Okay, so today's I'm not going to show my recordings because I record these at midnight actually. Okay, so you will just listen to my voice, right? So chapter 11. So if you still remember last chapters, we are talking about the solid waste processing and also solid waste recovery. Okay, so that one is for municipal solid waste, which is mean is the waste that we have in our house. Okay, so now we are going to move into next chapter, which is chapter 11. So it's about hazardous waste management. Okay, so previously we talked about municipal solid waste. So it's something that relates to our daily life, and then something is not hazardous or not really like toxic things. Okay, so today we are going to learn what is hazardous waste management, and then before you learn what is hazardous management, you have to know what is hazardous, how we they define as a hazardous, or what is the classifications, how we categorize it as a hazardous, and then what is the technologies that we have to help us to make sure that the environment is not polluted. Okay, right. So today's course learning outcome is actually CLO2 and CLO3, which is first, need to know how to explain the important element in the environment. Second is analyze the current issues. Okay. Okay, so this is the chapter's outline. First, you know about the definitions and also the classifications of the hazardous waste, and then what is hazardous waste management, and then finally is the treatments technologies that currently available. Right. So the definitions of hazardous waste. Okay, if I didn't ask you say anything, it's just a simplified. When I say hazardous, so it's something that is not good or something is dangerous. So when we say about hazardous waste, it's actually a solid waste or combination of solid waste that because of its quantity, concentrations, physical, chemical, or infections characteristic. Okay, so this is all the thing that may, how we say is hazardous. So it may cause a significantly contribute to an increase in the mortality. Okay, and then also it may increase in serious, irreversible, or incapacitating reversible illness. So it may cause you die or may cause you sick, and then pose a substantial present or potential hazard to human health or the environments when the improperly treated, straw, transport, or dispose, or otherwise. Okay. So what is the characteristic of hazardous waste? How we say it's hazardous, others than when we said it can cause death. It may cause it not healthy, may be dangerous to us. But then even when we said, if we go back to even the municipal solid waste also may have this. So these are the four characteristics that you have to remember. Okay, so there are four things that at least one of it, then one of the characteristics in the hazardous, then only we can say is a hazardous waste. So the first one is flammable or ignitability. Second is the corrosive, unstable or reactive, and then the toxicity you will see here. So when we say about ignitable, so it's some things that you can burn, and then reactive is some things that we can, unstable, so it will exploit, toxic, and then corrosive, so it may leaking out. Okay, so what is the thing? So you have solvent, oil, acid waste, used pickle liquor, waters from the TNT, used cyanide, solvent, some pesticide waste, high level of mercury, leads, arsenics. Okay, right. So the first one, we look into the flammable. So this is the most common symbols that we have is something with fires. Okay, so it can burn. So the waste has any of the following properties. So the liquids contain less than 34% of alcohol, and then it's not a liquid and is capable under a standard temperature and pressure and causing fire through the frictions. So the example is the waste oil, and then use organic solvent and PCB. Second is the corrosivity, and I'm sure this is the most common you may see here during your study life. So during in your labs, all the acid, very strong acid or alkalis is something that can be hurt your hands. Okay, the waste has any of the following is a aqueous that has a pH less or equal to 2 or equal to 12.5 at least. It has to be less than 2 or more than 12.5. So it's a liquid then corroded the steel at the rate greater than 6.35 millimeter per year. Okay, so the example is a strong acid and also a strong basis, which is alkali. Thirdly, unstable or reactive. And you look into the symbol here, so it's some things that can be exploited, like bomb. Okay, so it is normally unstable and readily undergoes the violent change without detonating. So it reacts violently with waters. It forms a potentially explosive mixture with waters. Okay, so the example is a cyanide solvent or explosive. Okay, so the final one is the toxic. Okay, so you may see this is the symbol. So you won't drink. Everything's like having this kind of symbol. Okay, even you go to hospital, you will see these yellow colors, the toxicity or radioactive. So it poses dangers to humans, plants, and animal health through the inhalations, indigestions, or surface contacts. So we have DDT, dioxins. Okay. So what are the activities that generate this kind of hazardous waste? Maybe you may say, I didn't have all these things. So what are the activities that generate? So the first one is industrial activities. Actually, it's when we go into the factory or industrial area. So you will see a lot of the industrial activities is actually involving all these hazardous waste. So if they didn't send it to the proper place, then it might happen. It will pose the dangers to our environments. Second, the commercial activity. Okay. When we say about commercial activities, maybe you might say, I didn't have the ideas. Okay. When you go to a steamboat restaurant, so you will eat the steamboat. So they have the gas can. So the gas can is actually one of the burnables. Agriculture activities from the pesticide. Okay, hospital, laboratories, or clinic. Okay, household activities. When we say about household activities, you actually have things like the mosquito killer, okay, the spray, and then the batteries, the medicines. All of this is actually kind of the hazardous waste. Okay, so these are the examples of the hazardous waste. So you will see acid alkalis, cyanide waste, heavy metal sludge, pesticide, herbicide, halogenated, non-halogenated, paint, dye, pigments, in waste, asbestos, polychlorinated PCB waste, or discarded batteries. Okay, so these are the industrial hazardous waste, and then these are all the hazardous waste they're having in the industrial, and then this is the sources where it's come from. Okay, so from the petroleum industry, chemical industry, incinerated as industrial process, paint and plastic, electronics, hospitals, plastic, cosmetic, nuclear power plants. Okay, so also actually from our daily life, we are actually having also create some of the hazardous waste. So this is why we having the domestic hazardous waste, batteries, used motor oil, empty insecticide spray can, broken thermometer, unused drug, floor detergents, or cigarette lighters. Okay, so what are the effects from the hazardous waste? So it has two effects. One is actually effects to the human health. One is for the environment. Okay, so for human health, you can see it have the acute effect, which is a short terms, or a chronic effect, which is a more direct one. Okay, so we have the dead skin irritations, drowsiness, breathlessness, injuries, and then for chronic one, we have neurological disease, miscarriage, death, and also cancer. Okay, So when the effect for the environments, the short-term one is actually distasteful odors, reduce the visibility, you can't see, fire and the explosions. When coming into the long term, it will damage the buildings, destructions of the natural resources, groundwater contaminations, and then also the depletions of the ozone layer. Okay, so when we say about hazardous waste, okay, municipal solid waste, the difference between hazardous waste and also municipal solid waste is municipal solid waste, we didn't have any system to track. So we didn't track it because the dangers to the environment is not that high. But that's where we come to hazardous waste. We need to make sure that from the place of the generate until the place of the disposal is actually being tracked. We have to make sure that everything's are going to the correct place. We don't want to have any illegal dumping. So that's why we have the cradles to grave concept, which is from A to Z concept. So we have to track from starting until the end. Okay, right. So when we said about this thing is actually what is cradles to grave is an attempt to track the hazardous waste from its generation's point to the disposal point. So the system required the generator to attach a manifest or a form. Okay, a form to their hazardous waste shipments. So this procedure is designed to ensure that the waste are directly to and reach to a permitted disposal site. So the uniform hazardous waste manifest is the key to the cradle to grave waste management. With a manifest, the generator can track the movement of the hazardous waste from the point of generations to the point of the ultimate treatment, storage, and disposal. Okay, so this is the flow charts. So this is the flow charts of the cradles to grave waste management. So from the generators and then the transporter, storage facility, treatments, disposal. And then finally is the EPA. So for Malaysia is actually our JAS or DO which is our environmental departments. So this one also the similar one is black. So I give you two examples that you can have. Okay, so what is the manifest? Okay, manifest is actually one page manifest must be accompanied of every waste shipments. The resulting of paper trail documents the waste processed through the treatment, storage, and disposal. A missing form alerts the generators to investigate, which maybe means calling the state agency or EPA. So in Malaysia, we're calling the JAS or the DOE, so our Department of Environments. Okay, so the notes that a manifest is unnecessary for waste treated and disposal at the point of the generations. It only needs when it involves for any transportations. Okay, so this is the responsibility of everyone's that involved in the whole process. So the first one is actually the responsibility of the Department of Environments. Okay, so it has to develop the policy, legislation, regulations to control the management. Second, have to enforce the legislations, conduct the environment monitorings, tracking and record keeping on the movement of the waste, and then undertake the investigation as to the cause, natures, or extent of pollutions that caused by the toxic and also hazardous waste. And then you have to promote and encourage or coordinate and carry out the planning of the waste management. Okay. When coming into the responsibility, so this is the responsibility for the water treatment and disposal facilities operator and owners. So they have to obtain the constructions and operations license from the Department of Environments. Okay, why we have this responsibility for the water treatment and also disposal facility owners? Because Some of the factories, they will treat the waste before they send to the disposal facility, which is the landfill. And then we have one special design landfill in Malaysia that is located in Negeri Sembilan. Okay, so they also, in the factories, they also need to having some responsibility. So they need to make sure all these things is actually achieved and comply to our rules and regulations. And then also for the operators, especially in Malaysia, is actually operate by quality alam sendirian berhad. So they also have to make sure that they really take care on all these handlings. So you also have to comply with every provisions of the legislations and regulations, and then establish an emergency procedure for any accidental spillage. Complete the consignment note and submit to the Department of Environment. And then also conduct research to improve the efficiency of the waste treatment and disposal. And then the responsibility of waste generators, okay, like us who generate it, like the industry, or even from the hospitals, or even from ourselves. Okay, first of all, we need to reduce or minimize the extent that possible the generations of waste. Okay, we need to reduce the waste, and then we have to reuse or recycle the waste whenever it can. And then we need to handle the waste in occurs before we dispose it. So dispose the waste only at the approval site. Place the waste in the appropriate container and mark with proper labels. Okay, you can't simply throw it in everywhere. You need to have a special design containers. Okay, so and then you also have to paste, because why? You cannot mix it. Let's say the chemicals. If you're having acid, you cannot mix with the alkalis. That because the way of treatments to the acid will be different. Okay. Develop an emergency procedure for the accidental spillage. And then complete the consignment note and submit to DOE. And then submit to the DOE regular basis as an inventory of the waste that generate. Okay, so what is the responsible of the waste transporter? Because our waste need to move. So they need to have the transporter, especially those logistic or the lorry drivers. So they need to obtain the necessary approval transportation's waste from the appropriate authority. Also complete the consignment note and submit to the DOE. Ensures that the vehicle used for transportations are specially designed for the safe of delivery, and then recommends the follow the recommended route, ensure the waste reach at the treatment site safely. Okay, so this is the hazardous waste that we have in Malaysia. Okay, so this is the routings. So we have the state agency, and then generators, hauler, which is the transporter, and then also the disposal site. So the first one, original, the state agency have to fill it and then send to the generators. And so we will need to have all together one original and then 5 copies. Okay, so you will pass to the generators, and then generators will keep one and then move to the haulers. Haulers will keep one and then pass to the disposal site. So afterwards, the disposal site will need to send back to the generators to make sure that all of this been cleared. Okay. Right. So this is the second schedules. I'm so sorry. This one is in Malay because I didn't found the ones that in English. So this is the form that you need to fill up. Okay. So this is the ones we have schedule 2, schedule 5, and schedule 6. Okay. Right. So now we're coming into treatment and storage. And then also for disposal requirements. Okay, so we call it as a TSDS. Okay, treatment, storage, and disposal facility are the last link in the cradle to grave hazardous waste management system. So a TSD facility may perform one or more of the following functions. Okay, let's see. For treatments, the function is any method or technique or process, including neutralizations designed to change the physical, chemical, or biological character, or the compositions of any hazardous waste. Okay, we need to recover it and make it safe to transport, store, or dispose. When we come into the storage, is have to holding the hazardous waste for a temporary period, at the end which the hazardous waste is being treated, disposed, and stored somewhere else. So finally, when we come into the disposal, the discharge, deposit, and injections, dumping, spilling, leaking, and or place any of the solid waste or hazardous waste into or any land or water, so that the constitute therefore may enter the environment, be emitted into the air, or discharged into any waters. Okay, so this is basically about what is hazardous waste about. So now we're coming into the hazardous waste management. When we said about the management, the logicals of priority in management, the hazardous waste is the first we need to reduce. Second is actually we would like to having the waste exchange methods, which means the waste from the industry A may be the input for the industry B to take it as a raw material to process and come up with other things. Okay. So example, the acid and solvent waste from some industry can be utilized by others without processing. Thirdly is the recycles. We have to recycle all the metals and then the energy content, and then we need to detoxify those toxic items. We need to detoxic, okay? And then destroy the combustible hazardous waste in incinerators. Those can be burned. We have to destroy it, so we need to burn it into a high temperatures. Finally, only we come to the disposal. So finally, we will dispose it in the secure landfill. Okay, so what are the elements that we have in the hazardous waste management? So the elements that we have, we need to make sure that the source reductions at the point of the generation is same with the municipal solid waste. Also, I always mention that the 3R, the first R is have to reduce. So we need to reduce the generations. Then we're doing the recycling both on and off site, transportations to the processing, all the disposal facility, treatment and processing to reduce the toxic or reduce the volume, and then secure the short and long-term storage and disposal. Okay, so this is the options of for dealing with the hazardous waste. Okay, so these are the flowcharts that we having and the types of the methods that we have. Okay, so just now, if you still remember, what is the waste exchange when I say from the A we can send to B? So waste exchange is actually a way to waste for the to minimize the waste by consignment of the excess unused material to an independent party for resale to a third parties. So we save the both in the waste production and also in the cost of the productions from new raw materials. So the tagline is one person trash can be another person treasures. So the waste exchange serve as information clearings houses through which the availability and need for various type of the material can be established. Okay, so this is the industrial symbiosis advantage sustainability. When we say about symbiosis, that means you rely on me and I also rely on you. So you see, in the linear system, is the from the natural resources, and then we come for the process in the factory, it come out to the product and also the waste. But then if we're coming into the circular, that means the symbiosis, from the natural resources, the industrial area process and then come out with the product. The waste will make it into the resources to the industrial B. And then also by coming together with the naturals, and then it will come out and also waste to the resources. So it will have the product and waste. And then the waste maybe can go as the inputs to the others industry. Okay, so these are the types of the waste exchange. So the first one is the waste with high metal concentrations. Second is the solvent. Thirdly is concentrated acid, oil, and then also the combustible material, something that can burn. So some industry may take the something that can burn, and then we change it into the energy. So the combustible material as the fuel. Okay, So when we said about recycling, it's actually the hazardous waste recycling. So we reuse the waste material in other process within the same facility or other related facility. And then hazardous waste that may be recycled include the water, solvent, spilled oil, and also selected solids. So the processes for recovery of spent solvents, metal plattings, brines, waters. So we can use the distillations, ion exchange, electrodialysis, evaporations, and reverse osmosis. Okay, hazardous waste treatment technologies. Okay, after we knows about what is hazardous waste, what is the categories, and then what is hazardous management, now we look into what kind of technologies that we have to do to reduce the dangers or to treat those hazardous waste. So in the solid waste, we have the landfill, we have wastewater treatment, we have incinerators. So now, so when we come to hazardous waste treatments, we also have almost the similars. So the principal objective of the hazardous waste treatment are toxicity reduction. We have to reduce the toxic conservations to form that can be subsequently be processed by others technologies. So we need to change into some things that others can be processed. Total eliminations or complete destruction or some things that we can totally make it disappear. Okay, volume reductions, or we need to reduce the volumes. Why? Because we didn't have so much of land to make sure that it can be stored. Immobilization, so we have to make sure that it is easy for us to move it. So when we said about hazardous waste, also in our EQA, which is Environmental Quality Act, we call it as a schedule waste management, okay, or schedule waste management facilities. When we say a scheduled waste, it means that some things that listed in the table inside the rules and regulations. So the waste management facility used by the various waste management operator in Malaysia depends on the ways that the operator handles. So these are the current. So we have all of this is the current hazardous waste management facility that we have in Malaysia. So first we have hazardous waste transport facility, offsite waste storage, secure landfills, scheduled waste incinerator, clinical waste incinerators, offsite physiochemical waste, centralized waste treatment facility, resources recovery, land treatment, and also wastewater treatment facility. Okay, so we can categorize it into 4 types, which is number one is the waste recovery or recycle facilities. So this type of facility is used to recover the materials for reuse, okay, to recover material for reuse and suitable for economy benefits. So example, we have the solvent, oil, acid, and metals. Second is the treatment facility. So the use of treatment facility is mainly for the material that are required the change in physical or chemical characteristic before we can dispose it, okay? So usually we will use thermal, physical, biologicals, or chemical methods to reduce the potential harm in the waste. Okay, third one is the land disposal facilities where we throw it on the land. Is also we call it as a secure landfill. Okay, this is the destination of the stabilized waste that need no further usage before being permanently buried below the soil surface. It's something that we already changed it into stables and then it has no more functions, no more value. Okay. So finally is the fully integrated facility. See, this is one major commercial facility operator for the management of hazardous waste in Malaysia, which is Quality Alam Sdn Bhd, which is operate fully and integrated facility. So it have everything in one place. So when we said about integrated schedule waste management system or integrated hazardous waste management system, so now I'm going to introduce you the ones that having in Malaysia. So we are mainly this thing is actually refers to Quality Alams, okay? So the integrated schedule waste management system is Quality Alam Sdn Bhd. is centralized integrated waste management centers develops to use a combination of multiple technologies in the treatment and final disposal of different types of the scheduled waste. Okay, Quality Alam actually manage 76 types of the scheduled waste out of 77. Okay, the Waste Management Center initially has 4 integrated seed treatment systems comprising the incineration plants, physio and also chemical treatment plant, physical to chemical and chemical. Solidifications make it become solid and then secure landfills, but currently includes another facility for the clinical waste treatment. Last time, the clinical waste treatment is actually located at Taiping. Okay. So the facilities treat all the category of the scheduled waste except radioactive waste, pathological waste, and also explosive waste. Okay, so these are the facilities that we have at Quality Alarms. Okay, this one is the incinerators, and then this is the secure landfill. So everything is in the containers. Then only we put the others are all the same as the landfill that I showed you before. Okay, so first we have is the incinerator. So it's operate at the high temperatures and then volatiles destroy all the hazardous scheduled waste. Solidifications is stabilize the neutral inorganic waste and reduce the hazardous substance. So, and then we have physical and chemical treatment plants. So we change the characteristic. Secure landfill is the last destination of the stabilized or reduced waste. And then also is a coming from the incinerator byproduct like fly ash, slags, and flue gas. And then finally is the clinical waste treatment center. Okay. So these are the waste treatment options for some hazardous waste characteristic that you can see from here. Okay, so that's all for these chapters. And then these are all the YouTube links that I want you to watch in your next classes. Okay, so from here you can see what is how the quality alarms operate, and then what is the hazardous material and also hazardous waste. And then for e-SWIWIS, electronic schedule waste information system, okay. Previously, if you still remember, I showed you that we trace everything through this form. Okay, we have schedule 2, schedule 5, schedule 6. But then now, for the digital life, okay, wait, I have to reshare it again. Okay, so for the digital life, actually, okay, for the digital life, we actually currently, we have one electronic system. We call it as e-Swiss electronic schedule that you can actually go and watch from this video. And then also the first schedule waste to energies plant. So the ones that I said, we can burn our waste and then we get the energies. And then this is motto and introductions on what is hazardous waste management to make you more interesting. Okay, so that's all for today's lectures. And then if you have any questions, and then you may ask me through WhatsApp or through any place. And then, so thank you for your time for listening the class. And then I will see you. So we will have another 2 more chapters, which is more on rules and regulations after this. Okay. So thank you all of you. And then see you guys again.